to introduce you.
Okay.
Good morning everyone and welcome to the Tuesday pub this lovely cold morning. It was only 4 degrees when I took the dog to the beach this morning, so I thought, oh, it's winter, definitely. Now just a couple of wee announcements before we begin. One is that you'll know that it's International Museum Day on Saturday and they've got a really big program here which is well advertised, and there's lovely things on from 10 to 2, so do consider that. And on Friday there's another one of the migration series on Friday the 24th at 2 p.m. and that's on the Lebanese community. And the other thing is that I'm the president of the Otago Settlers Association, so if anyone has not joined and would like to join, they can join at the front desk, and my name is Maura Stubbs. Now we'll introduce today's speaker, and we've got a speaking on Dunedin Amenities Society, and we've got Barry Mollison, who's the president.
Secretary.
Oh, sorry. I've elevated him. I met him last week and I thought he was the president.
No.
Secretary. I'm sorry for that, but maybe you'll be president one day.
No.
Okay, well I think a lot of us will know about the Dunedin Amenities Society, and you do the Town Belt walk, is that right?
It's called the Town Belt Traverse.
Okay, I knew that was on, so that's the only thing I know about it so far. But they've been involved in a lot of projects for Dunedin, so he's going to inform us today on what all they've done to contribute to the wellness of Dunedin and its population.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone. My name's Barry Mollison. I'm now the secretary. I've taken over from Yvonne over there. And I decided to start my talk today a little bit about my own cultural history for such an august audience. So I am of Scottish heritage. William Mollison, I'm getting nervous here. Mollison, he immigrated from Angus in Scotland in 1857. He went to Victoria in Australia and worked on a station there for 4 years. Someone doing that, it suggests assisted, So then he came to Dunedin in 1863, gold rush. He went to Gabriel's Gully and he got enough gold to buy land in the Calcium Road in Southland. It was the limestone country in Southland, if you know where it is. It's the place where it isn't a swamp, right? And so he established a farm there, married and raised children. My father, being the second son of a second son, came up to Dunedin in the late 40s for employment, the big smoke. He met my mother in a town hall dance, married, and then I was born. I've been, born and bred in Dunedin, but I found I really didn't know much about Dunedin at all. I did, but not really. And it wasn't until I joined the executive of the society, I was given some notes on early history, and someone had handwritten information about what they'd done for the first 20 years, just a paragraph. And because I became a retired man, I decided to increase that, and I went to the Hocken Library and started researching and noting down just a paragraph of each year of what they had done. And I've done that all except for 1930s, 70s and 80s, can't get the minutes. It's a shame about the 1930s because it was such an important area and time for Dunedin with unemployment and the depression, and I'm sure the society had a great influence in terms of employment then, but that's all lost. Now, through this research, I began to notice features, structures, plantings all round Dunedin. I'll drive down Hawthorne Ave, yes, and there's wonderful trees there, and down Serpentine Avenue, which you can see right now because they've cleared them all, and those magnificent trees. And I was getting carried away because I'd say to people, my friends, do you realise that these trees in this street was planted by the Amenities Society in 1915? I'm sure I was boring them. But I there was a need for a speaker for our AGM, and so I decided to put this together. It's my journey of self-discovery of Dunedin and what society has done. I've picked things, you know, it's 136 years of history, and you can't do everything. So I've picked things which hopefully will be interesting for you and relevant for you as well. I want to acknowledge the Hocken Library, the Recollect website, John and Pauline Bequist, because they had done a previous talk and they gave me some of their material, and Manson Wright, who did a lot of the wonderful photography, especially the drone photography. So let's start, shall we? And, oops, wrong way. There we are. Let me check my notes here, I'll do that frequently. Okay, here we go. In October in 1888, a group of 60 concerned citizens in Dunedin met, and they formed this society. It was based on a similar society in Edinburgh, the Coburn Society, and what a terrible name, the Dunedin and Suburban Reserves and Conservation Society. First president, first secretary, and a founding member. And there's that quote there, the society was found of fundamental values of environment, protection, enhancement and conservation for the long-term betterment of Dunedin and its residents. The name included town planning in the 1910s, and then finally, sensibly, they changed it to the Dunedin Amenities Society in 1925. Now, I had to look up what amenity meant, because people just looked at me quite strangely. And an amenity is a desirable or useful feature that benefits a location of a building or a place. Ah, much better, isn't it? Now, Dunedin in the 1880s went through a depression. Gold, the prices of gold fell, meat fell, prices, wool, and all New Zealand was depressed. Unemployment, and worse for Dunedin, politically everything was moving north, and they began to lose citizens. 5,000 citizens have moved out of Dunedin, and these businessmen was quite concerned about that. Dunedin, much of the native bush by 1880 has been removed because of for timber and firewood. There were the gold rush, the explosion of population. You know, there was a lot of mud flats being reclaimed, etc., etc. And the public sentiment was to clean Dunedin up, protect what was left. So we have this man here, Alexander Bathgate. He was the first secretary, and he was a very eloquent speaker and writer, and many of the quotations I have today is from him. And you'll notice that the end of that is that they may be induced to linger longer and perhaps even cast his lot among us, because it was recruitment. And they had in 1890 an exhibition, a South Seas and New Zealand exhibition, and that was to bring people back to Dunedin. So, yeah, he also was very important, you know, Bathgate Park, all right? He promoted the idea of Arbor Day. It was an idea from the USA, and he wrote a paper, a piece for the establishment of Arbor Day. Arbor Day is when people are induced to plant trees. The day for New Zealand is June the 5th, but it changes throughout the world because of the seasons. Included a draft bill for the House of Representatives, and in 1892, Arbor Day was inaugurated in New Zealand. So what I want to do is have a look at some of the things that they did way back then, and then look at the things we did later on. Now, where we are now, of course, is mudflat. You know, Dunedin had not much flat land. you know, so they had to reclaim a lot of materials. And of course, this is one of the places which they reclaimed. Now, I hope it's not a very good one, but you can see First Church, can't you? And where we are at the moment, that's where the first railways was, and we have the first railway station. But as more land became reclaimed, they built the new railway station elsewhere, new claimed land. I don't know why they didn't build it here, but this now became Robert Stout, the New Zealand Premier, declared it to be a reserve, and it was there. Nothing happened. And then we have Olson in his history of Otago said one of the concerns they had was the rise of larrikinism. Now, I had to look up larrikinism, and it's an Australian term. Impertinent and disrespectful behaviour, boisterous, often badly behaved young men. Just like present day Octagon and Friday and Saturday nights. Anyway, so that was a concern as well. So what happened is that society stepped in. They couldn't get the enticement of the city council. They had so many problems. You know, they had sewage, they had water, they had paving, mud Eden. I don't know whether you've come across that term before. I'm sure you people have. And this sentiment of the committee and the want of money, pounds, shillings and pence. And so what they did is they went, and I'll read it out here, where it is, yes. Cleared, drained, planted with cabbage trees and elms with flower beds of the path leading to the Wolf Harris Fountain. He donated a fountain, and we have something like this. That building's no longer there. Yeah. And I think this is a better one. This is outside the building here, and there's a really big one, I think, in the research room. And we can see quite clearly this had to be done. This had to be because the Queen Victoria's statue was 1905, so it's got to be after there. There she is, in all her splendour, and the fountain. And there's the building. I've never noticed that building by itself. You know, it's quite elaborate building, the one we're sort of in. Yeah, and there's the new railway station there. The fountain was removed, and in 1927 we have the cenotaph, and of course it became the occasion of Anzac Day celebrations. And we move on to Manson's, and we get present day with the elms. I think they're elms, are they? Oh, I'm not very good at my trees. And it's a wonderful spot. I suppose the people in the new ACC building, which is going up, is going to appreciate it more than us. Okay, the next one they moved to was the Octagon. It was originally planned by Charles Kettle. He was sent to Edinburgh in 1847 to get sort of a blueprint, if you like, for the new Edinburgh in the southern area. And he took names, George, Princess, many names, and also the central heart of the city, which I think, I've never been to Edinburgh, but I think it's called Murray Place. It's a central area, and a lot of people may have been there. Central heart of the city, and so he put that in there, and the octagon shape was there because of the road pattern. It was meant to be a garden. I don't know if that looks like a garden. Okay, so the problem with the octagon and the fact that it wasn't developed is because of this. And this is Bell Hill. And Bell Hill separated South and North Dunedin. And a lot of the development of Dunedin was in the south area, you know, Princess Street, Stafford, Rattray, Maclagan, and all the rest. And all the monies, all the development was going in that area because of this. They called it the Bell Hill because the bell on it. And they used to ring the bell to tell the time of day and also summon people for worship. The bell is actually in the grounds of First Church at the moment. Okay, so here we have Bell Hill was conquered first with a cutting in 1858, and then some of it was moved in 1863 in order to reclaim more of the mudflats. And this is 1867, and it's still not that well developed, as you can see there, but there is the Captain William Cargill's monument. And that was not well received, apparently. And it was removed to the exchange in 1871, and that's in 1871. Left derelict, and in the minutes, this is Alexander Bathgate again, a standing disgrace to the community, an eyesore to most citizens, and an object of ridicule to strangers. So he sent plans to the council about what they wanted to do. They wanted to drain, they wanted to raise new grass, flower beds, low fence along the perimeter, plant cabbage trees, silver birches and plane trees. And the estimated cost was £357. The council came up with 125 and away they went. And there we are here. We can see the plane trees, we can see the flower beds. There's Robbie Burns. Now, Robbie Burns was put into place in 1881, so it was an earlier one. Now, the biggest feature there is the Reverend Thomas Burns Monument, which I had no idea existed ever. And Robert Chapman, I don't know who Robert Chapman is, donated £1,000. Now, £1,000 is a lot of money. And it was constructed at the bottom. It was from Port Chalmers bluestone base with a Mount Somers limestone, 3 columns of Mount Somers limestone with a Ionic cross at the top. I think that's right. It was demolished in 1948, and because they thought that the limestone columns were becoming dangerous. Okay, toilets, underground toilets. I think I can remember the men's. I think I can. It was tiled, right? It was tiled. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. But there's the ladies. And I've always wanted to use this word, shrubbery. It was draped in shrubs. Ladies could use it quite unnoticed. The fence, see the fence? That there, if you on the western side of the museum reserve, you'll find that bits of that fence. That's what it looked like in 1924, looking south, and that's what it looks like today.
No, you'll halfway hit it with the truck.
Ah, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that one. Can you remember the Star Fountain? I'm sure you guys can. I sort of can. You stood there, and I don't know what music was played, and if you stood at a certain position, you got wet. It was removed. And it was going to go down to the Anzac, Anzac Square? I'll come to that. But it was too rusty to do so. In 1988, they revitalised the octagon, they chopped down some trees, etc. There's the plane trees. In 2010, the Society sent a note of concern to the DCC saying that the trees were looking unhealthy, and they went through a program of rejuvenation. Again, that was stopped, lack of LSD or money, and we had to voice our concern again in 2023. But the DCC have said that we can be assured that they will continue to look after the plane trees. And there we are. That's where the truck went. Came down, if you're not quite sure, it was a truck full of wood pallets, I think, and either the brakes failed or the driver had a medical event. But it went straight over, very close to the Byrne statue, went over it, down, clipped the tree, and then ploughed through the fence. Okay, next one is Anzac Square. More recent, in 1997, Jean Byers and her team took on the task of raising $70,000 to do the square. And they did this by selling seats, 2,000 each, to businesses. And also you can see the bricks with various names. It could be that some of your names are on the bricks. It was designed by Mick Field. He was a landscape gardener, and he designed the Renaissance style garden, and it was planted by Otago Polytechnic horticultural students. And there's one of Benson's drone shots to look at it. And I suppose it's now perhaps the most frequently photographed because of the station. All the cruise ship customers go there. It's quite a big tourist area. The next thing I want to look at is the ocean domain. Now this is St Clair in the 90s. I'm not quite sure. Looking at the lady's dress, probably getting on there. But the thing I want to look at is the sand dunes and how big they are. The sand dunes was used as a dumping ground for night soil. The night men would go round and collect the night soil and they'd dump it. And also used to dump it at Lawyer's Head. You know, Lawyer's Head for decades was where we all dumped our effluent. And now they've extended that, 3 kilometres out into the ocean, out of sight, out of mind. But in the 1890s, there was a huge storm which actually took away the esplanade and took down most of the sand dunes. And it was a huge concern. And what happened was the society imported lupin from San Francisco and marram grass, and they planted for the next 10 years, planted. And so we have the sand dunes with that. And of course it's spread to other areas, so we won't worry about it. Now this is probably where it's going to break through. And this is just over there is a car park, and it goes down to Victoria Road, and it's where the Forbury Park is. Forbury Park? Yeah. This no longer looks like that, because if you've gone down to the beach, you'll see the bulldozed it, and they put in a sand sausage to protect it. It worked well. There's the lupin, and there's the marram grass holding the dunes together. So they weren't that far away from it. Kettle Park, oh dear. Did you read about Kettle Park? And here is the lights of Kettle Park. And you see how close it is. And you can't really see, but some of that bank is eroded, and there's a lot of debris in the sand, because Kettle Park, before it was Kettle Park, was a dump. And in the paper I read there may be unexploded munitions in this, and asbestos and all sorts of things. So we're going to have trouble there, and they're putting sausages on there as well. Activity over the years, lots and lots. The Sinclair playground, Pahutakawas. Look, here we go. 4,000 pine trees planted at St Kilda in 1913. Well, I can't find 4,000 pine trees in St Kilda. And the other one down here, in 1969, 100 maritime pines and 60... I can't find those on John Mollison Rural Drive as well. It's on the western side of the drive, but a lot of activity. Okay, now we come to Dunedin's Verdant Treasure, which was the editorial in the ODT in 26th of March 2024. Now, you will probably notice, if any visitor will notice this significant landscape feature, a green corridor throughout the heart of the city. It covers 203 hectares, 22 sports fields, 11 playgrounds and numerous lookouts. And this is one of Manson's photographs from Signal Hill, and we can see quite clearly the extent of that. And also this one here, which is Prospect Park, looking up along the corridor. It was developed as the original part of the 1848 town plan, and this is Wakefield's instructions to Charles Kettle. Now, okay, I don't think we'd use the word erections in a modern way, would we? No. Yeah, its protection from initial arrival was limited because of lack of funds and obviously emphasis on development of the town. It was used as a source of timber and firewood. Remembering firewood was the main source of energy. Before they got coal from, I think it was Green Island first, then Kaitanka, mostly it was all firewood, and that's decades of firewood burning. There was a problem with squatters. Right? People who couldn't afford, labourers who couldn't afford rents or to buy. And have you noticed Kensington lately? Okay. It was compounded by the gold rush and people flooding in. There were quarrying, grazing. The southern area especially was affected, and you'll notice that most of the native trees have gone. You'll find more of that exotic, as they termed it, trees of the British Empire, which have been planted there. Now, in the Town Belt, lots and lots of what I call sub-canopy plants. We've got ribbonwood, flax, tree ferns, etc., etc. I use it a lot. Okay, because I go walking there, especially through lockdown, you know. There's a term, Shinrin Yo Ko, which means forest bathing. And it's a feeling of relaxation when in nature. And that's what I get from it. You know, it's lovely. This is a painting by Sam Foley. Man, he's talented, that man. How could you do that? And this is my poor attempt at a Photoshop trying to imitate him. Okay, there's the Town Belt, a shot of the Town Belt. This is Queen's Drive. That's Harcourt Street at the top. And we can see it's sort of scrubby, isn't it? It's quite scrubby, if you like. It doesn't look like there's big trees there at all. The first development of this was Tomlinson's paddock. Thomas Brown, a draper, quite a eminent businessman, he went and put together a plan for recognising Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee. And it was voted to create a public park, Jubilee Park, which was previously used for grazing and also camping for miners. And they raised a cairn, which is there, and they planted a lot of oaks. And it was the first of these, and there's many of them. Now, if you go through, here we go. Monticello, Unity Park, Mornington Park, Kaituna, Jubilee Park, Balnell's Golf Course, Moana Tennis Court, Little Bourne, Roberts Park, Moana Pool. You could include Ulverston there, but not really. Prospect Park, down the Bullock Track, Woodhall, and then the garden, the thing in the gardens, which I don't remember, Botanic Gardens, over the top down to Logan Park. So it's quite odd, isn't it? And there's the Ken. I've walked around Jubilee Park quite often, and it's sort of like a dog park now. People take their dogs everywhere. But it's a soccer ground, I think. And there is the Thomas Brown seat. I counted up the number of seats, 106 seats in that time. Yeah. And that, I thought, was the oldest one. This is Robin Hood Lookout, and this is what was put in place to celebrate Queen Elizabeth's visit in 1954. This is the Clear. The Clear is where there's poetry by Charles Brash and those plantings. My tree shots. There's a whole lot of things concerns the society in terms of the town belt, and I just wanted to talk about one because I'm conscious of time. And the one is partnership, and this is another Bathgate quote. One main object of forming the association is to form a link between the City Council and the public opinion outside. Any suggestion coming from such a well-respected association would carry more weight than if it had been made by an individual citizen. And so these are from Pauline and John's quotes here. They act as a concerned party to lobby and support the council, a watchdog, a vigilant to protect and urgent to pursue, to prod the DC into action. And so that's the partnership that we have to conserve this important structure. I won't go through them all. Parking's a big problem, always has been since 1940, and it was part of our submission to the management plan. Education, an important one here because we do support a kahiaki education program. It was set up by the Department of Conservation Society and the DCC, and it's used, if you want to say, nature study, if you like. The schools bordering the town belt, we have a full-time person who conducts a program looking at conservation, planting and pest management and promotion of birds, etc., etc. Unfortunately, it's under threat. The funding, the Department of Conservation have pulled out, and the DCC are reviewing their funding, so it may not. The society certainly can't carry it, but yeah. We could include the Traverse in there. Every 2 years we organise the Town Belt Traverse, a walk from the Southern Cemetery down to Woodhall, 8 kilometres of pure forest bathing. 600 people joined us last time, and it's a big event for the society. Okay, Lake Logan. Okay, Policia Bay, you'll notice there's a quarantine. It's still there, by the way. It's a student flat, and every St Patrick's Day is quite a centre of celebration. Let me have a look at the notes. And here we go again. Bathgate. Remains a stagnant fly-breeding marsh, a menace to the health of the community, a blot on the amenities of the town, and a disgrace to the authorities controlling it. 1916, a request of the Otago Harbour Board they should plan reserves on reclaimed land, declined. 1918, request of 25 acres to be transferred to the Otago Harbour Board, to the City Council, declined. Movement towards acquiring for sports ground, declined. First proposal reclaimed for the 1925 exhibition given by society, adopted. And we have reclaimed, and we have this here, 3 million visitors. Now, in 1925, New Zealand wouldn't have had 3 million. And the last day, 80,000 people attended. looking at Logan Park, the Society has been there and it planted gardens in front of the art gallery, that's gone. They planted poplars, that's gone. And there's a lot of things which, you know, times change and things change. This is the anniversary gates, which is put in place for the anniversary of Otago University, and the Society donated the gates. We have trees, which was mentioned. This is the irrigation ditch. This is Butts Road, and those trees are mentioned. And we also have these. Now, when I was going to the Hocken, I met arborists who are doing those trees, and he told me that those trees have been planted as an Arbor Day exercise by the school, which used to be around there. The school, Albany Street School. And they were planted before the exhibition. Now, let's have a look at street planning. I'm looking at time. I live in Rosebery Street, which has got trees in it, right? And I've always been intrigued by where do these trees come from? And this was the first of them, Claremont Street, and that's a seat donated by the Society as well. And both sides of the street, unfortunately, makes Claremont Street a bit small. But the next one, oh no, what have I done? The next one is Volpe Street, and that was done in 1916. Were you in Volpe, you know? All right, I won't go through there, looking at time. And then we have a whole lot of streets being planted by the Amenities Society. Perhaps you'll find your street. Interesting thing here, I've got that, where are we, 1930s. Oh, I've got 1930 Lower Portobello Road. The one indication of, because I haven't got that minutes, right? And one indication I've got about that is they planted 10,000 trees and shrubs in the Lower Portobello Road in the 1930s. They could be those huge trees which are there. The eucalyptus trees, which they're probably trying to get rid of now. But yeah, Norfolk Street, you know, you'll probably recognise them. There was a relationship between the RSA and the Society because they, especially in the 20s and maybe in the 30s, they wanted to provide employment for returned servicemen. And the returned servicemen, that's what they did. They planted streets. Kensington and the Oval. The Oval's done twice. I think the first trees didn't take, so they put these ones here. And you know, you'll see them all over, well I do, you'll see them all over the place. Wonderful, wonderful trees. If you go from Jubilee Park and go through the tracks down to Serpentine Avenue, they're just magnificent trees. Unfortunately, the leaves are gone. They were beautiful about 3 weeks ago, but yeah. Okay, well, I'm looking at time. I'll quickly go through these. The Botanic Gardens, okay, that's quite a association. Many of the managers of the Botanic Gardens were part of the executives, and this was the monument to 110 years is the fountain just inside. Pretty understated, isn't it? Okay, that's where the fountain went. $10,000 for that. $20,000 for the duck feeding place. We transported rock to the rock garden and also established plants. They established the azalea garden. I didn't know that. They didn't build this, but this was another McField thing, but they donated $5,000 for the plants. This is the friendship seat for the city's sister city, Portsmouth, which is in the eastern side of the United States. The other sister city, the big sister that we've got, is Shanghai. That's strange, isn't it? Yep, maintaining the aviary. Do you remember the monkey house? Yeah, that was strange. And many, many seats. And these are the ones by the children's playground. Okay, now we get to Craigieburn. Oh, thank goodness. Now, Craigieburn was bought by the Society from Elizabeth Sheriff in 1949. And Craigieburn is the top. You can see where the reservoir is, that's Ross Creek Reservoir, and you see that area, green area at the top, that's Craigieburn. Waikari Road and Tanner Road in that particular area there. And there it is there, and it's the reserve, and it was a farm. Now the history of that, and the reason why I took this, was it is a early settlers story. Just for you guys. Robert Henderson, there it is there in Port Chalmers, I don't know which one it was, assisted immigrants William and Elizabeth Rankin with their 3-year-old daughter Elizabeth. And they had a small amount of money and they bought 20 acres of bush. And they called it Craigieburn. And this is Craigieburn. And it has structures on it and walks all the way through it. You'll notice the dark green is where the remus are, okay? And there are significant remus. In this area here, there is a remu which is estimated to be 750 years old. So that's probably the oldest living thing in Dunedin. And there are others which are about 650, 450 up to these tops here. They came and they cleared, and all those stones must have been in the paddock. And it's a wonderful stone wall. It's got steps included in it, so you can step over it. You know, marvellous, absolutely marvellous. And this is the house that they were constructed. And it's not there anymore, but there are the stepping stones, the flagstones, and those were bricks. And there's the flagstones left over. They had a area for their animals, and this obviously had a roof on it. It is called the Little Ruin, and a bit unclear, but of course what they did was that they sold firewood, and that's what their cash crop was. And they chopped it down, a bit blurry, I'm sorry to say, and they had to drag all this stuff out. They did it on sleds. They couldn't have carts because of the mud, right? And so every market day, William would take the firewood through a sled to sell. Poor William, he died in 1872, and it's listed as ill health, wet conditions, hard work. Oh look, I might as well go back here. And there she is. There's Elizabeth, and she had to survive, and what she did is she took in boarders in the little stone house. The footprint of the house is really small. And that's one of the boarders, and they married in 1879. And his name was Edwin Turner. And he came in 1863. He was an assistant surveyor. He registered surveyor in 1870. And they lived there. There's quite a social circle, apparently. But they died, Elizabeth died in 1920 and Edwin died in 1909. What happened then? We have a situation where Elizabeth, the daughter, married at 18, married a gentleman, they all have the same names, Robert Sheriff, and he was a local farmer, and what he did was he had ploughing contracts, and he built the byre, and for his stabling horses and equipment. He died in 1902, leaving Elizabeth Sheriff, the daughter, with 10 children and a small wooden house, which if I go back, I'll show. Hopefully yeah, you'll see that there's her house down there. Those trees, macacarpas, are still there, but the house isn't. A 2-bedroomed house, apparently. Anyway, and there she. Oops! Oh no. sorry, one of Manson's shots again. This is the view looking from Craigieburn, and here is the reservoir, and that's Leith Valley, I think, and then right throughout. And that's looking down at Robert, the son, he went and increased the dairy herd. And this was then brought in to be a dairy shed, the stones there, and so that's how they survived. Elizabeth, and there she is here, in 1920, and in 1949 she approached the society to see whether we'll be interested in buying it, because she wanted it to be conserved as a public reserve rather than being developed into housing or whatever. And the society agreed, got the DCC in, and we bought it. And it's a real asset now. There's been lots of decades of different sorts of development. From the 50s, the 70s was the clearing the gorse. There was, working bees, Arbor Days, Scouts, Otago Polytechnic, high school students, Rotary, they're all in there. And then there was another development in the 90s, a lot of plantings. And then again in 2010, there was extra tracks made throughout the reserve. Very worthwhile looking at. You can get a park off Tanner Road, and it's an easy walk to the field and the Briar, and then round all the tracks. Advertisement? Well, no, let's quickly go through these. And unsuccessful. Well, the first one is underground wiring. In 1941, the Society made a submission that all subdivisions, new subdivisions, had to have underground wiring. No. Yes, railway. In 1914, they complained to the railways, the big railways corporation, and they agreed, no, we'll take them down. And they did. 100 years later, no. Yes, very relevant, the street through Queen's Gardens. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, that we complained bitterly. No. Yes, we complained about the TV mast on Mount Cargill destroying the skyline of Dunedin. No, that didn't work. And the last one was Ansons Bay Road. No, Ansons Bay Road, the flat was South Dunedin. And it was a bog. Well, it probably still is a bog. Sorry if anyone lived there. And they had to get an access to Ansons Bay because previously it had to go right round Forbury Road. Valby put a road round the Sinclair. So they built it. And the society from these times, they spent a lot of money. You can see £500, 5 years of planting the medium strip in the middle with trees and shrubs. Like they've done on Stewart Street, you know what I mean? Yeah. But in 1908, that was all ploughed out when they put in a tramway through the medium strip. Okay, so there's my talk. Well, we welcome new members, don't we? We always welcome new members. And you can just search on Dunedin Amenities Society, you get our website, and you'll get all the necessary information. So, that was my sort of pictorial record, my personal trip through Dunedin. I know a lot more about Dunedin before I started. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but thank you for your attendance.